Constitutional democracy is the backbone of Indonesia's political system. But how did this concept evolve over time? Who were the key figures behind it? And what role do the people play in protecting democratic values? Hi everyone. We're so excited to be here to talk about a topic that's meaningful and relevant to all of us. I'm Shiva with NPM B1A024265, and I'll be your host and moderator today. Let's dive into this exciting discussion together.
Hello, I'm Mugitz with NPM B1A024029. Today, we're diving into an insightful discussion on history, law, and democracy.
I'm Arya with NPM B1A024104. I'll be exploring the historical and constitutional perspectives behind this topic.
And I'm Widya with NPM B1A024131. I'll be sharing some reflections.
All right, let's begin and explore what constitutional democracy truly means for Indonesia. Hello, friends. Before we begin, try to answer this question. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the phrase, towards constitutional democracy in Indonesia? Write it down in the comments, okay? Now, after this, we're going to dive deeper into towards constitutional democracy in Indonesia and explore how this concept might impact our lives. Ready?
Isn't that an academic piece written by Professor Dr. Yor Adnan Buyung Nasution?
Absolutely right. This time, we will discuss precisely that topic. There is some topic I'll bring up to you guys. So first, this article contains the opinion. They criticize the concentration of government power in the hands of President Sukarno. Using Japanese terms, they called his government the Bucho, or Big Boss Cabinet, because his ministers consisted of former accomplices of the Japanese occupation, for example, Muhammad Supomo. Known as Indonesia's father of law, Supomo played an important role in formulating the foundations of state and constitutional thought. His experience and understanding of administration and law were needed in the early days of the country.
If I'm not mistaken, this article also discusses the Vice Presidential Decree number 10 of October 16th, 1945. What is your opinion on that?
In my opinion, Vice Presidential Declaration number 10 marked a significant step toward democracy after Indonesia's independence. It addressed the flaws of the previous system, which concentrated too much power in the hands of the president. By shifting executive authority to parliament, the declaration introduced a parliamentary system, requiring leaders to be more accountable to the people's representatives. This change also empowered political parties, allowing them to represent public aspirations and oversee government policies, strengthening checks and balances. In conclusion, I believe this reform was a bold move toward a fairer, more democratic system, laying the foundation for transparency, accountability, and inclusivity in Indonesia's governance. Further supported by severe scholar according to Herbert Feith's seminal work, The Decline of Constitutional Democracy in Indonesia, the decree signaled the culmination of the system of checks and balances that had historically ensured the separation of powers among the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. Is there anyone want to give their opinion about the Legal Aid Service, or LBH, opposing the authoritarianism of the new order?
This section provides an in-depth overview of the establishment of the Legal Aid Institute, LBH, as a form of resistance against the authoritarian New Order regime under Suharto's leadership. The author emphasizes that the LBH was founded in response to legal injustices, human rights violations, and the dominance of military apparatus within the government system. The LBH was referred to as the locomotive of democracy due to its role in mobilizing pro-democracy movements, including students, workers, and other civil society groups. The activities of the LBH became the foundation for the reform movement, which ultimately succeeded in toppling Suharto's regime in 1998. This section also presents sharp criticism of the New Order regime, particularly regarding human rights violations and the manipulation of the Constitution. The author highlights how Suharto used the Constitution as a tool to maintain his power, including the prohibition of amendments to the 1945 Constitution and the suppression of opposition groups. The LBH is a concrete example of an institution that successfully combines legal advocacy with social movements. The concept of structural legal aid is highly relevant for addressing structural issues such as poverty, social injustice, and marginalization. Maybe that's all about the LBH/Lembaga Bantuan Hukum part.
You have a quiet, good explanation on that part. You, the one who wear glasses, would you like to explain? Or to give your opinion on the next part?
My pleasure. For over 30 years, Suharto ruled Indonesia with tight control over politics, media, and the economy. But in 1998, a financial crisis led to mass protests demanding change. As pressure grew, Suharto resigned on May 21, 1998, marking the start of the reform era and Indonesia's transition to democracy. The 1999 election was Indonesia's first real democratic vote. Unlike the new order, where only a few parties were allowed, this time, 48 political parties competed. It was a turning point, giving the people the freedom to choose their leaders for the first time in decades. The reform era brought major changes to the 1945 Constitution. Key amendments introduced direct presidential elections, limited presidential terms, and strengthened checks and balances. These reforms ensured power was no longer concentrated in one leader and laid the foundation for modern Indonesian democracy. Despite progress, the reform era faced major challenges. Corruption remained widespread, making it hard to enforce transparency. The rise of many political parties led to instability, making governance difficult. Additionally, radical groups used democracy to push restrictive laws. While reformasi was a step forward, Indonesia's democracy continues to face hurdles.
Very good explanation, my friend. Next, do you have any opinion to deliver, young lady?
Yes, thank you, Sheva. So, friends, in the last part of the article, the author discusses 4 crucial issues for the future of democracy in Indonesia. First, corruption. The author says that corruption is not just about punishing individuals, it's a systemic problem in our political and bureaucratic structure. Even though we already have laws and institutions like the KPK, the weakening of their authority shows that legal reform alone is not enough. We need structural changes too. Second, the system of government. Democracy must be institutional, not personal. That means we shouldn't rely on charismatic leaders, but instead build accountable institutions. The idea of concentrated power in one leader, like in Supomo's integralistic model, should no longer be applied in modern Indonesia. Third, the reformation of law enforcement institutions. True legal reform means making our justice system independent from political interests. Judges and law enforcement agencies must serve justice, not power. If not, people will continue to lose trust in the law. And finally, fundamentalism versus democracy. Democracy must protect all citizens, regardless of religion or background. The article reminds us that religious fundamentalism can threaten pluralism, and sometimes even influence local regulations that discriminate against women or minorities. That's clearly against our Constitution and human rights. So, in short, the article invites us to reflect. Do we want a democracy that is strong, inclusive, and just? If yes, then we must fight corruption, uphold institutional accountability, protect justice, and defend pluralism. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Widya. So guys, they're all the material and our group opinion regarding Adnan Buyung Nasution papers on Southeast Asian constitutionalism. We hope you guys clear with our explanation. Thank you.